Episode 142, IRONMAN 70.3 Maine with Andrew Luneau. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the pursuit of the perfect race. Today I'm talking with my friend Andrew Luneau about his recent race experience at IRONMAN 70.3 Maine, where he had a time of 5 hours, 5 minutes, and 32 seconds. He's been doing triathlons for many years and is on Big Sexy Racing this year. The temperature on race day was 62 and rose to 78 with the chilly water temperature of 65 degrees. This race took place on August 26, 2018. Welcome back to the show, Andrew. I look forward to hearing about your race experience and catching up since we talked about your last race.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So how you been, man?
Good. Just kept the training steady, nice and consistent, nothing too crazy. Stayed nice and healthy, so that was good.
Yeah. You've been still using the Purple Patch Fitness program that you had?
Yeah, I just kind of recycled from when I recovered from my last race, which was in mid-June. So I just worked backwards and picked up from the midweek. I did alter it a little bit. I did find that it was heavy weighted, like the whole entire bike program was definitely weighted more on the trainer. There wasn't really too many outside rides, and so I kind of that was one thing I did change, as I rode outside as much as possible because I look at the trainer as being more of a winter tool than outside.
Right.
It's nice out.
So why did you want to do this race, and what made you want to pick this race to begin with?
Well, one of the reasons, the venue itself is unbelievable. Old Orchard Beach in Maine is this cool little retro throwback to the 50s beach community. It's got this huge 7-mile beach that's, pretty well protected. And we were actually, me and my family were up there last year, when the first, in 2017, and which was the first year that Ironman branded this race, because it used to be formerly a Rev 3 race.
Right.
And, so we were up there just by chance on weekend, and the race was going on, and my wife kind of looked at me like, "Did you sign up for this race?" and didn't tell me. I'm like, "Well, no, but, cause I didn't have any of my bike or anything in my stuff here." But I told her, I'm like, "Well, if we like the whole atmosphere and stuff, I definitely want to do it next year." But the venue is awesome. It's totally family oriented. They have this awesome beach. And then they have this huge arcade and amusement park that's also right on the beach. And then they have the race that's going on all day. So, it was a pretty easy combination. By the time we left that weekend, I was like, "So we're going to come back here next year with the kids, right? And I'm going to do the race and you guys can go do your beach and arcade stuff." And she's like, "Yeah." So that's kind of, sealed the deal. Once I knew that was going to happen, I kind of made this my A race for 2018.
Nice. And you were going after that 5:05, right?
Yeah. Last year, my first half, I did a 5:20. And then in the spring, I went to that same course and did a 5:13. And so my goal at the beginning of this year was to get sub 5:10. And then, so going into Maine, I knew I was, trying to cut 3 minutes, but again, this was going to be my first, my second ocean race and only my third time swimming in the ocean. So I didn't really know how much of a factor that was going to be. I knew the T1 was about a 400-meter run from the swim exit to T1, so I knew that was going to add time. So, I was wondering where exactly I was going to make time up from, the 5:13, to cut 3 minutes basically, when I knew, the swim was going to be a variable that I didn't know if I was going to be faster or slower. And I knew my T1 time was going to be much longer than my T1 from my spring race. So, but it worked out in the end.
Right. So whenever you think about your training going into this race, what was your longest swim, bike, and run workouts?
My longest swims were about, 3,200 yards in the pool. I would do a couple 2,800 yards open water swims. Those were mostly, I would take a break every 600 or 700 yards. So I mostly did, like interval swimming in the pool and more of the longer sets in open water stuff. Which was kind of funny because, we had a very hot and humid summer this year. And so all my open water swims were basically just in either lava shorts or just jammers. And so putting on a wetsuit in late August, it was definitely a different feeling. For bikes, I did a metric and then I did a little run after that. So that was my longest bike. Okay. And then my run, again, this is where I kind of, I think I slacked in the training a little. My longest run, I think, was only about 9 miles, but I did 11 miles once and I did a couple 10 miles back to back. But, those were probably 7 or 8 weeks before the race. So, I mean, the last 6 weeks, I think my longest run was only 9 miles.
Okay.
And I know the last 4 weeks before the race, my longest run was maybe 7 or 8. So I think my run was definitely lacking a little distance-wise.
That's not bad at all. Now, if you think of your training and you could only divide it into 2 buckets, one bucket being low intensity, one bucket being high intensity, what percentages of your training would be in each?
I would probably be around the 70-30, 70% easy, 30% hard.
Okay. Now, what does a typical training week look like for you, Monday through Sunday?
Monday through Sunday. So Monday, I would usually swim in the morning in the pool, and then I would run, 4 or 5 miles during my lunch break at work. Tuesday, I would usually get a bike in. Wednesday, and then Tuesday lunch, I would probably do another 2 or 3 miles easy. Wednesdays, I would work at home, so I usually make those some of my bigger training days. I would swim in the morning, bike in the lunch, my work from home, and then in the afternoon, I'd also get a run in. So, Wednesdays, I was looking at 3-4 hour training days. Might be split up, but I mean, it wasn't one big session. Thursdays would be kind of an easier day, either just to run. I'd probably sleep in and then just run at my lunch break. Fridays would also be another easier day, but more of a swim. And then maybe at Friday afternoons, lunch, I usually didn't do anything. And then Saturdays is when I would usually get a 2 to 3 hour bike ride in. And then Sunday, I would try to get a long run in. But this year, those long runs, again, 7-8 miles.
All right. Now, are these the miles all together? Are you taking a little bit of a break in there? Are you doing a split day where you're doing morning and afternoon long runs? What does this look like?
No, long runs were usually all at once. I do like the double run days, which I'm going to be getting back to shortly because I'm going to be going after my half marathon PR that's been standing too long. And I think double run days definitely help with the running tremendously.
Right. Now, as your volume and intensity increases in your training load, how do you mitigate the risk of being injured?
I think it goes back to the, 70-30. So, I mean, even on the days where if I had a really hard day the day before, the very next day I made sure it was easy. The only kind of caveat to that was my swim. I mean, my swims were usually every other day, and that really didn't have that much of an issue. If I went hard on the swim, I didn't think that really affected my bike or my run. So if something like a Wednesday, if I went hard on the swim later on in the day, my run and bikes, I would still do, I could still put pretty big efforts in. And then same thing on Fridays. Friday morning, if I had a hard swim session, my Saturday morning long ride, I would still be able to sprinkle in big efforts in there.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what was the most hours that you trained in 1 week going into this race versus going into the Patriot 70.3 you did earlier this year? Was it about the same, being that you rinsed and repeated?
Yeah, I think I hit 13 hours again this block, this 7 week block, I think it was. So, and then I think I averaged. Actually, I got it right here. I can whip it up real quick.
Okay, no big deal.
Yeah, I averaged, a little bit less actually. So my average, most of those were, I definitely, I would have like 2 weeks at 11, and then maybe a week at 13, and then I would go down to like an 8 or 7 recovery, or an 8 or 9 hour recovery week. So it kind of just evens out.
Okay. Now, going into this race, what was your taper like? Was this a traditional 2-week, 10-day taper, or did you just taper 1 week? What does this look like?
No, I mean, tapering, I think I have a pretty good, coming from a running background, I think I have a pretty good mindset of how my body reacts. I usually don't like doing a full 2-week taper. I also don't, let me see. This taper was, I think I did a 9-day taper. I did a big effort on Thursday. I worked from home. I was able to, get a pretty big day on that Thursday, the Thursday before the race. And so my taper basically started that Friday and then went until race week. So it definitely wasn't 2 full weeks. I'd put it more like 9 days, and I thought that was pretty good. And actually looking back at it, the Wednesday before the race, I did a 22-mile bike with a 4-mile run off the bike. And a couple of my friends were like, I thought you were tapering this week. I'm like, well, I was starting to feel a little too flat. So my bike was definitely easy, but I sprinkled in some intensity in there. And then the run, I just tried to maintain, keep the race pace I wanted. And then, an easy swim. And then it's Friday, so it's time to travel.
Right. Now, going into this race and even the previous race this season, for an athlete that does the 70.3 distance, how important to you is time management and allocating time properly?
It's definitely, it's right up there, in the biggest priorities. That's one of the things why I like the Purple Patch program. Usually, a program or a coach will start by asking, how many hours a week can you train? But he actually does it the other way around. He first things like, how many hours of sleep do you need each night? Which times are totally off limits for family? Which times, he asks the other questions first and then goes back to what's left over and said, okay, well, you have this much time a week left over for training. How much do you think you'd actually be able to use of that? So time management and being able to prioritize, key workouts and support workouts are definitely, I think it's probably, it's important. I'm not really sure how much more important it is on, say, a full Ironman, but, it's definitely when you're limited. Again, I was only allowed 13 hours a week. That was my big week. 11 or 12 were mostly my average, but hearing some of the other people on the show where they're doing like 15 and 16, it is what it is. And I'd rather get those hours and make sure I'm sleeping well and recovered well and making sure the hours that I do get in are definitely packing a punch.
Right. Now, what does a supporting session look like for you? You mentioned that.
So a key workout would be something with intervals or high intensity. A support workout is, something zone 2, zone 1, easy running. So something like that would be, like for me, like if I had a Monday swim session in the pool where this one, there were 25-yard sprints with at max effort with 2 to 3 second rests. You do like 50 of those, and those, I hated that workout. But I did it a couple times. So that would be like a key swim workout. And then I would couple that up later in the afternoon with like a support run. So most of my runs were all considered like support runs where it was just easy, low stress running, nothing above getting your heart rate above zone 2. So that's an example. An example of a key run workout would be, anything on the track or intervals or race pace miles, running off the bike. Those are considered key runs. And then the bikes are the same way, support bikes, just like an easy spin. A key bike would be, something with 20-minute race pace efforts or hills. There's a lot of hills where I am. So whenever I would get on the hills, which I love doing hills, I would consider that more of like a key workout.
Okay. Now, going into this race, you said you traveled on Thursday or Friday?
I travel on Friday.
Okay. So how far of a drive is this for you?
Maine is the beach. Let's see. I think it was, well, according to Google Maps, it was supposed to be 3 hours. We left Friday morning. We had unbelievable weather, stretch of weather. So, I mean, and then plus it was like the last weekend of summer. Usually school starts the following week here. So we start actually before Labor Day. So it's kind of like the last hurrah summer. So we had a lot of traffic actually all the way from, the Boston metro area, almost all the way up to Maine. So it was supposed to be like a 2.5 hour drive, and it took us 3.25, I think. So we're three in an hour.
Wow. So whenever you got to the race venue, did you just go ahead and check in then, or did you get your condo, Airbnb? What does all that look like?
Yeah. Like I said, we got it, the Old Orchard Beach is this like total retro area. So, I mean, there's not really any big hotels. I think there's one big hotel in Old Orchard Beach. So there's a bunch of motels, like these old motor inns, definitely like mom and pop organizations. So we checked in there first. Then we did some walking around. Two of my older brothers were there with their families, and they had been up there for the week, and they were going to stay, or they were leaving, Sunday in the afternoon. So they were going to see just the swim part because they had to get back. So we met them on the beach by the pier. The kids got wet, just walked out to the ocean just a little bit. The swim buoys were already up there. So they're all asking questions. And then we actually all of us, I think there was 12 of us total. We went to the village, and I checked in, got all my stuff. It was easy. That was Friday afternoon. So I think I checked in around like 3:00, 4:00.
Nice. So how was the check-in process in the village at this venue?
It was good. I mean, it was definitely, different from the other races I've been into. I mean, it was quick and easy. I mean, I think because it was Friday, I think the village had only been open for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, maybe. I knew I wanted to do it Friday rather than Saturday because we wanted to spend all day Saturday at the beach. So it was, I mean, I think I was in and out in 15 minutes. They pushed you out into the IRONMAN gear set, or, where they sold all the gear and stuff, which I thought was.
So that way it's nice and convenient.
Sorry?
So that way it's convenient for you to buy stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty good.
Okay. Now, whenever you talked about going to the beach the day before on Saturday, how did you manage your hydration, nutrition, anxiety levels, checking the bike in, all that when you're at the beach all day?
It was pretty low stress. I mean, since I knew I was going to be doing this race, I did a lot of research on the motel we wanted to stay in, and we found, I mean, there was 2 of them that had unbelievable location. That was literally maybe like 100 meters from the swim exit, and then maybe 400 meters, not even in between a quarter mile and a half mile to the swim start. And then it was right behind transition area. So, I mean, we could look out our bathroom window and see the transition area. So, going to the beach, we'd set up all our stuff in the morning, and then all day we were just, if we were thirsty, we'd just go back to the hotel room, get something to eat. I was definitely drinking lots of water. And then I think around lunchtime, everybody wanted to go and just go into the motel room, get some food and stuff. And that's when I kind of took the opportunity and went and checked my bike. Basically, only took like 10 minutes to ride it there, check it in, and then walk back. I mean, I was in and out, and I had an awesome place on the rack. And I was pretty lucky there. So, I mean, everything about it was smooth and easy. Like I didn't have a single issue anywhere. So I was happy with that.
What's the name of that motel y'all stayed at?
We stayed at the Beau Rivage.
Wow. Was that expensive?
No, I mean, it was probably, I forget how much it was exactly, maybe like 140, 150 a night. But again, these are, like mom and pop hotels. So it's a lot, it was a bed, a kitchenette, and then a shower. There were 2 beds, a kitchenette, and a shower. But it had an outdoor pool and a hot tub. And again, the location was unbelievable. It's definitely helped the wife and kids.
Nice.
But another thing to mention, like the Old Orchard Beach, I guess, has a huge, pretty big history of being a pretty big or pretty popular with the French Canadians as a place to vacation. So there's a huge French Canadian population there.
Really?
Almost everyone else. Oh yeah. I mean, you are just about to hear French as you are English.
Wow.
I mean, I think outside Tremblant, I don't think there's anyone out more that races more than at Old Orchard Beach.
Wow.
And then that was the same way I've heard too, even when it was Rev 3.
Okay.
So a lot of the hotels have the Quebec flag flying, and they say like all the waiters, they can speak French too, as if you're from out of town.
Cool. Now, so being that you're the day before already, what was your meal that you wanted to get the night before the race to prep you for the race?
I'm definitely, I don't know. I remember last time, I think I had Domino's, and I didn't have any issues with my stomach. But then this year we went to a Mexican barbecue place, which was good. I think I just had like a pulled pork sandwich, mostly just carbs and meat. And fries. I don't really stick to one thing. If I was at home, I'd probably go with, just like chicken and rice, but being outside, traveling. And again, there was 12 of us in our group. So my brothers and stuff, we wanted to all get something. So, and I had the, customary beer the night before beer, just to ease the nerves and extra carbs. That was fine considering all the water I've been drinking all day.
Okay. Now, whenever you got in bed the night before the race, what time did you get in bed and what time did you wake up?
Well, we had been to the arcade and the rides all night. The only thing I was really concerned about was how much time I was spending on my feet on Saturday. I was on the beach, but I was mostly barefoot or sitting down. But I definitely did spend some time chasing kids around and then walking around the pier and the amusement park and the arcade at night. I definitely I had a different set of run shoes on, so I wasn't wearing the shoes I was going to be racing in, but I had my other running shoes on just because I knew if I'd spend too much time on my feet in like sandals or Crocs or something, that was going to kill me. So that I was more worried about like stuff of that nature than going to bed. And I think I was in bed by 10:30, falling asleep at 11, and I was up by 5.
Nice. So being that transition is literally like walking distance behind where you're staying, what time did you wake up? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
so you got up at 5. So how was this process of getting to transition and getting your morning ritual done?
Oh, it was awesome. I was so glad I did the logistics hunting, and it definitely helped that I was there last year, so I knew exactly where I wanted to stay. But I woke up at 5. I was in transition by 5:10, and I didn't even bring my wetsuit. I just walked. Me and a couple other guys that were doing the race, we were all staying at the same hotel. We all woke up. We were out the door ready to go by 5:10. We were in transition by 5:15. We even stopped at the corner store and got coffee.
Wow.
Went and did all our stuff with transition. I was back in my hotel room at maybe 5:45. Made sure the pipes were working and everything the second time around. And then the race started at 6:20 in the morning. We started walking at 6 a.m. and we were there by 6:10. So it was perfect. Like the other guys I was racing in, like this hotel there's no, this one and the one right next to it, or you can't beat it when it comes to location.
That's awesome. Now, whenever you start getting in transition, you're using 100 and 110 psi. And what kind of wheels are you using?
I just have some Bonneregger's Aeolus 5s.
Okay. So those are what, 50 millimeters deep?
Yes, 50.
Okay, cool. Now, as far as your setup in transition, are you using an aero helmet for this course?
Yeah. Well, it's like it's not like a aero helmet, like a teardrop one. It's more of like an aero road helmet. So, I mean, it's a Giro Air Attack, I think. It has like a removable shield. And I actually listened to one of your podcasts, and Scott Horns recommended that helmet, and I was reading reviews about it, and I liked it a lot. So there it was.
Nice. Well, I'm glad I was able to help some. Now, whenever you actually left transition to go down to the water and all of that fun stuff, how was your anxiety level?
I was pretty calm. I was forgetting. I had forgotten a couple things by the time I got to the water. Like usually I always take my wedding ring off because I just have a pair. Like one time I was swimming and I felt it move from my knuckle to my mid knuckle, and it just freaked me out. So now every time I swim, I take it off. And I hadn't done that yet, so I had to give it to my friend's wife, and she wore it on her thumb. So there were just little things I wasn't too nervous. I had done, again, this was only going to be my third time swimming in the ocean. So the day before I did a little recon swim in the morning, and just a recon bike. Very easy. I just swam out. I swam out to the first turn buoy and came back, and it was one of the easiest swims I had ever done. Like I literally did no effort. And my Garmin was telling me that it was almost like a pool swim. Like I was doing an average, my 100-yard pace was almost comparable then to like a pool swim. So I was like, something's not right here. Either my Garmin's off or this ocean swim's going to be really easy. And then I was talking to a couple people, and they were saying that, with the currents and the way the low tide, and then with, the extra buoyancy in the cold water, he's like, you're going to almost like fly across the water. Like, and when I was swimming, I couldn't believe it. Like every time I do a few strokes, I'd look up and there's a turn, there's a buoy. I do a couple strokes and there's a buoy. So that really gave me confidence going into the swim and being not too nervous at race start. And then I saw my brother down there. I actually walked right by him because I was getting in. He's like, there's no way I would have, been able to, pick you out between all the Waldos and the black suits and green hats. But he said, I told him I was going to be at the 37 swim marker, and he was staying there, and I walked right by him. So we started, basically until the cannon, me and him were just chatting before we got in the water.
Nice. Now, whenever you actually got into the water, how's your swim go?
It was good. Again, it was like I was saying before, the ocean was fast that day. The water, there was no chop. It was a flat swim. It was a time trial start. You self-seeded yourself. So after that, my fastest open water swim, I think for, the past two halves I've done have only been lake swims. And I think I averaged around like 38 minutes. So I knew I was going to be a little bit quicker just by, Saturday's test swim. So I placed myself in like the 37 minute at the front of the 40 minute corral, I guess. But as soon as, the gun went off, we ran in and started swimming.
But how far did you actually have to run down the beach after you crossed the chip mat? Being that it was low tide, you had to run quite a ways after the chip mat though, right?
Oh yeah, that was definitely a huge thing that, a lot of one guy in my group is a very good swimmer, but he's not as good swimmer as he is a runner. So, and when we said, it's going to be low tide, and then on my test swim, I'm like, you basically could almost, that first buoy, you can walk out and you could still be standing, and the water is going to be up to like your shoulders or your chest, and you're at the first turn buoy.
Wow.
I wouldn't recommend walking out that because you're definitely slower than you are swimming, but it was a good, I would say 50 meters of a run in where, I wasn't swimming, until, the water was mid, up to my waist. And then at that point, it's not worth running, or even just above your knees and stuff. But there was a pretty good, I'd say about 50 meters of a run before you started swimming. So that definitely helps your swim times.
Wow. Now, whenever you actually get in the swim, did you encounter a lot of chop or a lot of elbows, punches, anything like that?
No, it was like I said, it was pretty flat. One thing I definitely took advantage of was I actually swam on the left side of the buoys. So in the athlete briefing, they say for some reason, you can swim as long as you keep all the buoys. The only buoy that you need to keep on your left, because the swim was you go out, you make a 90-degree left turn, you go out, and then you make another 90-degree left turn, and you head back in the shore. And they said the only ones you need to keep on your left are the two buoys where you make a 90-degree turn. So, and someone specifically says, so we can swim on the left side of the buoys that are going straight out to the turn. And he said, yes. I'm like, okay, so I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. And then on the swim out, there's so many people on the right side of the buoys because they want to keep all the buoys on, or I'm sorry, everybody's swimming on the right side of the buoys, keeping them to their left. So they make that turn. They don't have to do anything. But I stayed on the left of the buoys where there was nobody swimming. And so, I mean, there were a couple people swimming and I would try to find some people's hips and stuff, but I didn't run into anybody. The water was flat and it just, again, felt like I was flying in the water. And then when it did come to the turn buoy, I kind of just gradually went over there. That was another thing I will say about the swim that I was really happy with was my sighting was dead on. I know I had some sighting issues at the last race, but this time it seemed like every time I would look up, the buoy was right in front of me. And I was midway through the swim. I was happy. Like I knew I was going fast and I knew I was sighting well and I knew it was going to be a fast swim.
Wow. So as soon as you get out of the water, how long is T1? You had mentioned it was about 400 meters earlier.
Yeah, it was quite a bit. So I came out of the water. I saw my brothers and their families. They're all down by the beach. So it was nice to see them. I went through the wetsuit strippers. They took off my wetsuit, which was perfect timing. Again, this is playing into where the hotel location was. So I'm running across the beach and across the road to get to the parking lot where the transition was. And my wife and kids were right at that intersection because our hotel was right at that intersection. So I kissed the kids and I give my wife the wetsuit. I'm like, here, can you take this? And
is that the video that I saw online?
I'm sorry?
Is that where I saw the video online of you?
Yeah, no, that was the finish. I'm pretty sure that was the finish. But in one of the pictures I sent, in the email, I'm running with my wetsuit, but like as I was running from the swim exit to T1, I gave my wife my wetsuit. I'm like, here, can you bring this, just go throw this in the hotel. So I didn't have to deal with the wetsuit in the transition, which was again something I had planned on with the location with the hotel. But yeah, it was a pretty good run. It was pavement. It was they didn't it's too much to carpet because you basically got to go across the street, down a little, across a set of railroad tracks, and then you make a left into this municipal parking lot that was pretty big. You can see in the photos that one of the drones took an aerial picture of it. And that's where the whole transition area was. But I was definitely happy when I came out, seeing my time. And then again, being able to ditch my wetsuit was an extra bonus.
Nice. So you get through T1. What was your strategy for the bike ride? Did you want to hit a power number, a cadence number, heart rate number? What did this look like?
No, I didn't really have any metrics to be using on the bike. It was just basically keep my effort, steady. I knew this bike course was going to be fast. People said it was rolling. There were no real big climbs on it. No, not even like a Cat 4 or anything. So I was pretty happy with my training, considering I like to do hills. So I knew that I was going to be ready for these little rollers. But yeah, I mean, it was a good. I really wasn't going off any number wise. It was all feel.
That's good. I feel like if you have more of a understanding of your body and you can go off of feel, it will relate to a better day almost. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I definitely have some belief in that, especially I think some people get too worked up in the numbers because then, if they work the numbers the whole time, they don't really know what they're capable of. If you just sit back and look at your numbers the whole time, like, all right, I'm going to maintain, 180 watts the whole time, or, normalized or whatever. I don't even have a power meter, and then you get on the bike and you crush the run. Then you're going to go back and think, well, maybe if I push the bike a little bit more, if you get off the bike and you feel yourself like, oh, I'm ready, or I could have done more, and you already done the bike, I think sometimes, you got to release the beast.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to the first few miles of the bike ride, how's the quality of the road here and the atmosphere around you? Was there a lot of drafting? What does all this look like?
Oh my God, the roads were awesome. I on the message boards, they had said they repaved almost half of the course. And they definitely were not joking. I mean, there was a good 20-mile strip where it was fresh blacktop, and like, almost felt like you were scared to roll over the lines because you're afraid to get white paint on your bike or something.
Oh, wow.
They were some of the smoothest roads I had ever raced on. Like, I didn't hear a single rattle on my bike or anybody else's bike the entire 2.5 hours I was on my bike. Like, I mean, they were uncannily smooth. That's
great. Did you see a lot of drafting?
I didn't see any drafting. Nothing. I mean, from what I heard on the message boards, there was a pack at the beginning of the race. But they definitely got nailed, because I know someone said after about the penalty tent, and I'm like, and I didn't think anything of it, because I'm like, well, I didn't see anybody in the penalty tent. I did see a referee go by once, and it was more on some of the rollers. So there were times where I was catching up on people. I mean, I passed a lot of people on these rollers because it just seems like a lot of people weren't, hill ready. But I don't think it was definitely nothing crazy, anything like Texas or some of the other stories I've heard.
Right.
And also, one thing from what I've heard about Tremblant is that it's a pretty regulated course. Like, they're pretty strict on the timing. And so I think a lot of the French Canadians that are down here, when they do race, they have that in their back pocket. So they know, like, you better keep your distance. So I think they're a bit more attuned to the rules than the average Ironman person. But so, like, again, I mean, there was definitely no blatant drafting. I mean, it was a pretty honest course, I would say, a pretty honest bike ride.
Good. Now, as far as the aid stations, how's your aid stations there?
There were 3 of them. I mean, I didn't really pay attention to them. I just kind of moved over to the left. My plan on my fueling strategy was, I wasn't going to be picking up any aid state or using any of the bike aid stations.
Okay.
But there was 3.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say there was 3 of them scattered on the 56-mile loop. So, I mean, it was pretty, if you needed something, it was going to come up.
Okay, so what was your fueling plan for this bike ride?
Fueling wise, my plan was to go through 2 bottles of Gator, 2 bottles of the Gatorade Endurance. So 1 per hour, or 1 per hour and a quarter. I was, and then I had set my timer up, or my Garmin, to notify every 5-mile loops or 5-mile laps on the bike. So I knew every 5 miles, if I was averaging around 20 miles per hour, I'd be taking in a Cliff shot block every 15 minutes. And then after the third one, I would do another Cliff shot gel with caffeine, like the espresso ones with 100 milligrams of caffeine. So that put me about 200 calories an hour. And then I figured with the Gatorade, that would put me about, 225, 250 per hour. Or actually, no, a bottle of Gatorade is like 80 or 100 calories. So somewhere in there. But, and that's, I was end up taking the shot blocks a little quicker because I was averaging, I think I averaged like 21 and a half or 20, somewhere in there. So, I would see the 5-mile loop come up and it would say, 13 minutes or 14 minutes. And I would still take it. It was basically every 5 miles I was taking some kind of nutrition in. So every 13 or 14 minutes, I think those shot blocks are 30 calories. And then I went with the double sodium salted watermelon, I think was the flavor. So I went with a double, because I know I was going to need extra salt, but And then I went back and looked at the package, and the double sodium really didn't make any kind of difference in the regular kind. So, but yeah, that was my plan. Basically, shot block every 15 minutes, and then a gel after on the hour.
Okay. Now, retrospectively, did this nutrition plan work well for you?
I think it did, except for I needed more salt when it came to the run. So one of my original plans was to put pretzels, like pretzel logs in because I used one of those in my training runs in one of my big days, and it definitely felt better. And then the morning of, I actually went and bought a bag of pretzels with my coffee when I was walking to transition, and then I didn't use them. I'm like, I'll just stick to the shot blocks. I got enough of them. 2 packs is like 200 calories plus the gels and the Gatorade. That'll be fine. And then looking back at it, I'm like, and when I checked the sodium levels in on the packaging, the double sodium thing wasn't even close to like what the pretzels would have been. So, going back, I probably would have done something like that, because I don't use any of the other, all-in-one nutrition bottles or any of the stuff, but
okay. So
I think it worked.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to the later portion of the bike ride, mile, say 45 to 55, how are you feeling mentally and physically?
I was feeling good. I was just ready to get the run on, because I was, I wanted to have a good run this time, and with the weather conditions, I knew it was going to be more favorable than my June, or the race that I did in June. So I was ready to get off the bike. But I was still I knew I was going to have a faster time this bike course than the last course, even though when I look back at the mileage was almost to the tenths, like almost as spot on to Patriot, my race in June. And there's actually 400 feet of elevation more in Maine, but I went, I cut 3 or 4 minutes off my bike time.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, like I said, I like hills, and I'm a smaller kind of guy. And I was talking to a couple of the other guys with my after the race. Hills play into our play into my strong suit, I think, because the flatter courses, anybody can just push power. Like the big guys, if you can push power, a flat course, that's good for you, because that plays into your suit. Like there's not too much of a technical course. You just sit there and push power all day. But once you start getting into even something with mild roll, like this course, I would not say is hilly at all by any means. And then Patriot, I would say, is flat. Like Patriot, you can just push power all day. But this, even with the little bit of rollers, it increased my average speed and my time, by a couple minutes. So.
Okay. Now, whenever you get ready to get off the bike, are you doing anything to start preparing you to get off the bike?
I tried to pick up the cadence a little bit, just to spin the legs out. Someone actually crashed right in front of me.
Really?
Because they were oh yeah, they were. If you go and search my finisher pics, you can see the guy wiping out right behind me.
Whoa, really?
Oh yeah, like we were coming in, and it zigzagged quite a bit going into T2, or the swim, or the bike exit, or bike entry, whatever. And I don't know why he thought he needed to cut or whatever, try to gain those extra 2 seconds by going fast, but he definitely tried to make a 90-degree corner. And then when he couldn't make it, his wheels were turned too much, and he hit his front brake too hard, and he
ate it.
Went right over he went right over the handlebars, and I was off to his side because I knew he was going too fast. So he went over the handlebars, and the whole crowd, and this is right at the transition. Like you make the next 90-degree turn, and the line to get off the bike is maybe 20 meters away. So I think the organizers did like you basically kind of did like an S curve, like you were in the Army, you know how they would position like jersey barriers, so you had to zigzag your way.
Yep.
So they kind of did something like that with the last turns. They didn't use jersey barriers. It was just the way the streets were. So it kind of forced you to slow down. But I saw this guy like trying to Tour de France his way through it. And I'm like, this guy's so I made sure I was off, not behind him. And sure enough, he wiped out, and it was in front of a bunch of people. So the whole crowd like gasps and goes silent as I kind of just rolled by him, and I looked at him and just I knew he was okay, but I'm like, And I knew where he crashed. I'm like, that's the best place to crash, because if he was hurt, he's right there in front of medical and stuff. But it was just so funny because like the whole crowd was so loud and cheering because the two of us were coming in, and then went dead silent. And you could literally like hear my tires roll by him. And I just kind of gave him a look. I'm like, see, like you're trying to save a couple seconds and now you're on the ground.
Yeah. You are an idiot. Thank you.
I couldn't believe that. So that was it. That was the only thing that was memorable of ending the bike course.
Wow. Now, whenever you get off the bike and get in a T2, how's T2 go for you? You're in there just a little over 2 minutes.
That was good. I came off, I loosened one of my shoes. I ran with them. Going back, I wish I didn't loosen them because, when I was running, my left cleat where my shoe was loose, and I was running with my shoes on, and I could feel it, just my foot moving too much more than I wanted to. So I just, kept it easy. I was running with my shoes on, so I didn't want to do anything crazy. Especially after just seeing that guy wipe out. I'm like, there's no reason to try and save 2 or 3 seconds and slip and fall and, lose a couple minutes. But I mean, I had set up my transition pretty well. My bike rack was I was the second spot, I think, from the end. So I was able to get it on and get my shoes off, or get my bike shoes off, shoes on, and put my hat on, grabbed an extra gel that I had in my hat, put my sunglasses on, and I was out the door.
Nice. So for this run course, what was your strategy? Did you want to negative split the whole thing? Did you want to go by feel? What does this look like for you?
So I was looking again for a little bit more redemption from my half marathon, from my June race, where I think I had like a 1:53 run, and my regular half marathon time standalone is like a 1:32. So I'm like, there shouldn't be a 20-minute difference between my standalone and my 70.3 half marathon time.
In theory.
So I was looking at, I'm sorry?
In theory.
Yes. And I mean, to me, it just seems like 20 minutes is too long. Like I wanted personally to do better. So I was hoping to get to just break 150. And I just like feeling like I was going to set out at an 8-minute pace. But I think as I started to run, it was a 2-loop course, and part of the course was an out and back, a little short out and back on this old rail trail where it was super flat. The run course only had one hill, and you had to do it twice, but it was flat and so much better shaded than my race in June. So much shaded. Oh, it was awesome. So, my goal was to run by feel and go to like the 8-minute miles. And then I think on my 3rd or 4th minute mile split, I think I hit like a 6:51. So I knew I was like way too fast, but I was feeling fine, which is of course the whole cliche runner's talk. But my goal was to get below a 150, but I know I have like a 145 in me. It's just, I got to get the nutrition down on the bike better.
Right. Did you have any cramping or GI issues on the bike?
Oh my God. So yeah, that was my downfall on the run.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I was doing, everything was going to plan. I was going a little bit faster. I think I was averaging, I think 7:30 miles. So, I mean, I think something was wrong with my, my first 3 mile or 4 mile, my first 2 miles were 7:44. And then I did an 8-minute mile and then a 7:56 mile. So those were my first 4 miles. And I felt like awesome. I felt I could do this all day. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this is finally the run I know I'm capable of happening. And then mile 5, and I had this cramp in my left hamstring that stopped me dead. Like total LeBron James crying on the side of the court cramp. Like it literally stopped me. Like I had to stop. I was slapping at it, like trying and like rolling my thumb up and down it to get it to move. I started to do like a zombie walk to see if that would help. And then I don't know how or why or like magically the F2C nutrition tent was at mile 5 and I could see it and it said electric light salts. So I finally loosened up so I could walk. And I kind of like shuffled my way to the guy gave me like a little vial of salt. And I dipped my finger in it and put it in my mouth. and almost instantaneous, the cramp went away. So I don't know if that was just like mind over matter or whatever, but I was able to recover. And so that was mile 5. I did an 8:46. My mile 6 was a 7:53. So I thought, okay, I got this cramp out of the way. And then I just started to hit the salt hard because I knew something was happening. Like all my muscles were feeling tight, like they were tensing up, like getting real tense. So I'm like, I need to finish all this salt before I hit this 5 mile mark again so I can grab another one. The nutrition on the course, I had taken a gel at mile 4 with water and I felt fine. And then I was just hitting the water and Gatorade and orange slices. And the Coke, again, I was a big fan of the Coke last time. This time, not so much. I don't know if it was just because my nutrition was better on the bike. I think I did mile 4. I took some Coke, and mile 6, I think was the first time I had done Coke. And there was definitely, it wasn't flat because I was letting out some pretty big belches along the course. But after that salt and the cramping, seemed like it was going to get better. So my mile 7 was 8:29. My mile 8 was 8:18, and then mile 9 is where like the wheels fell off. So I think I don't know if I just fell behind in my nutrition while on the run, or if it was just a combination of the salt or lack of salt. Because like when I finished the race, my kit was covered in salt. Like you could see it around my shoulders. Like I had like perfect circles around my shoulders of salt. My biceps had salt on them. My lower back had a ring of salt around it. My quads had salt circles from the muscles. So that definitely, I mean, the lesson I learned from the run, I mean, it wasn't all bad, was I need to work on the salt intake.
Wow. Now, as far as the hills on the run course, were there any hills?
Yeah, there were 2 hills basically. One was right when you started because you're basically back at ocean level, and you had a little bit of a hill to get back on the main roads. And then after that one back on the rail trail, there was a little hill.
Okay, so not that many hills at all then.
No, it was definitely much flatter. Let me see what my thing said. Yeah, the elevation says like 350. So not flat, but not, I don't know. It seemed flatter than the Patriot course. I think the Patriot course, my race in June, all the elevation was in the back 10 miles, the back half of the race. This, being a 2-loop course, you knew where the hills were going to be. So you kind of were prepared for it.
Okay. Now, as far as the later sections of the run course, being that this is a 2-loop course, did you have an idea of how you were measuring up as far as how you wanted to get towards your PR? Were you calculating of, hey, I'm at this point in my day, I need to speed up or anything like that?
I did that at mile 9 when the wheels kind of came off. So I'd done an 8:29 and an 8, and I looked, and then my mile 9 was a 9 and 11. And then my mile 10 was a 9:04. I'm like, okay, so if I can maintain even my 9-minute pace for these next 3 miles, I'll be able to break 150, which was my goal. But my mile 10 ended up being a 10-minute mile. And I think mile 10 had the hill and where I'd cramped last time. So I'd grab the salt again. And I could really feel the pace was different on the 10th mile. I actually met a couple of my buddies that was running or doing the race. They were on their first lap. So I ran with them a little bit. I knew I was going to come in above my 5:10, but I knew I was going to miss my 150. So I ran with them just a couple times, and they actually told me, you need to go, stop running with me. So I kind of left them. But yeah, I think at mile 10, I did some calculating just by the run. I knew I was going to set a PR, or I don't really look at them as PRs because all the races are different. I just knew I was going to meet my goal is a better way to say it.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to mile 10 and 11, by this time you've been on the course for nearly 5 hours. Did you see anything funny on the run course or even on the bike course?
The best thing I saw on the course was one of the aid stations someone was, and he was Polynesian. He was in a spit image. I don't know, and the people with the kids will know this, of Maui from Moana.
Really?
And since he was working the aid station, everybody would say thank you, and then he would break into his song "You're Welcome." And Maui was Rock was the voice for Maui, so my kids love that movie. So I was cracking up at that. So that was definitely a nice. He even had the little fish hook. I don't know where he got that. So he must be doing that for Halloween or something. But I mean, it was a spin. He was a good singer too, so that brought a lot of laughs to the course.
Wow. Now, whenever you get to the last mile of this course, what is this last mile like?
Yeah. So this was this was my first Ironman race, branded race. So another thing, the crowd support was crazy. Especially on the run. I mean, it was a 2-loop course. It went through 2 separate campgrounds, like campgrounds on both sides of the road at different parts of the loop course. And there were lots of French Canadians. So you put all those together, and it seemed like there were parts where like you were running and both sides of the roads were three people deep, and they're yelling at you in French. They're yelling at you in English. So I mean, that was pretty crazy. It definitely got the goosebumps going.
Really?
The last 800 meters though, that was pretty crazy. I was having a hard day on the run. I knew whatever, I was having my legs were cramping up again. And I actually cramped up the same cramp, but this time on a different leg, hit me about 800 meters from the finish line. Like I could see, like I knew if I just turned or went across this road and these railroad tracks, I was going to see the carpet and the finish line. And again, I had this, dead stop cramp, and I stopped running. I started to walk again, and the whole crowd just went like crazy on me. Like, they're like, you got to be big and sexy for this. You got to finish. And a couple of guys came up right next to me. He's like, you can't stop walking. You can't start walking. You can't, the finish is literally right there. I'm like, I know. I'm like, and I was like, so again, I started the zombie walk again, and it loosened up, and I started to run, and the goosebumps came up. I mean, I got goosebumps talking about it now, just because I'm like reliving the whole moment. And I just started thinking about my kids, like I'm going to see them in a couple seconds, and the crowds were crazy, and it was definitely an emotional half mile. And that's when I saw the kids. I mean, when that video you saw, that's when I was coming in, and I would. Like that slow, like shuffle I was doing right there, I had cramped no more than probably 90 seconds before I came into picture of that video. So it was definitely emotions. Like if I didn't have my sunglasses on, my wife would be like, why are you crying? So it was definitely an event, definitely an experience, I'd say.
Wow, that is awesome. Now, whenever you crossed the finish line, what was this like? I crossed, as soon as I felt the carpet on my feet, I'm like, okay, it's over. Like the run's going to be over. These cramps are going to go away. Every time I finish a line now, I take my hat off and just like give us a little salute or whatever. And then, I walked up to the person. She gave me a bottle of water. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yes, I'm good now that I'm walking. Then they shuffled me over to take the pictures and stuff. And that's when I saw my kids and on the side of the rails. And what I didn't know, and I wish I would have seen this, but after I saw my kids in the video that you saw, is they ran with me, or they ran aside of me on the outside of the jersey, the barriers and all that stuff. So right as I crossed the finish line, they were there again waiting for me, which, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together till, my wife shows up, and she's like huffing and puffing. She's like, the kids just took off after you. Wow.
I'm like, oh, all right. So it was definitely an experience, something that, I knew I was going to get something different with Ironman, but I didn't know it was going to be something like that.
Wow. Now, how was your recovery process after the race?
It's going good. I mean, my legs were torn up Monday. I mean, I didn't do anything Monday. Tuesday, I just kind of went for, we actually went to a different beach again. But I just went for like a 30-minute bike ride just to try to loosen up. Then yesterday I swam again. And then today's the first day I ran. I did an hour-long run in the morning, just not even looking or worrying about pace or anything. And then I did another hour on the bike, which definitely feels better. But
good.
They were definitely torn up on Monday. Monday was probably the most sore I'd ever been.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know it's because of, like, again, the last, like from mile 9 on, it felt like all of my muscles in my leg were just tense. Like they're almost to like they're flexing all the time. And it felt like my quads at any second would just like flap off at my kneecap and start butterflying.
Oh my gosh.
And so talking to one of the other guys that have a lot more experience, he's like, yeah, you definitely need to look into your salt. And he's like, just looking at your kit, he's like, you're covered in salt. And it's not even that. I mean, it was like 78 and partly cloudy. I mean, most of the run course was shade. He's like, the way you sweat, you're definitely losing more than you're taking in today. I'm like, and that happened once before, a couple times on my training runs, and I had made some adjustments in my fueling, but it was definitely today, or that day was definitely with the salt. So something to work forward for next year, something to work on the off season.
Wow. Now, as far as your preparedness, if you could look back on it and say, I was this well prepared for this race, what rating would you give yourself? An A? An A plus?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I would definitely say, well, I don't know how I would definitely say an A. I was, I had the fitness from my June race. I had done an Olympic in the meantime, in between. I had kept I had kept the average hours up. I kept my big efforts. I was ready.
Okay. Now, if you can kind of judge this race from a logistical standpoint, how logistically challenging do you feel like this course is?
Oh, I mean, I think this has one of the logistically you could have such an easy race morning. Like if you can get one of those 3 or 4 hotels that are near the swim exit, like Walnut Street, that are near the swim exit, you can have you can wake up at 5, get your transition set up, come back to your hotel room, put your wetsuit on, and then walk to the swim exit and still have 10 minutes or swim start and still have 10 minutes to, shoot you could logistically, this is probably one of the easiest races you can find. And it's one of the fastest courses you can find, especially if it's going to be a low tide. So, I mean, this, and then, coupled with the amusement park and the beach, I mean, this is definitely I think Rev 3 found gold and, finding this course and designing it. And then Ironman, obviously, the fact that it sold out or had 150% increase the year before and then sold out this year in 2 months. I mean, I think that kind of speaks to it.
Right. Now, as far as this race, would you change anything about your race going backward and doing it again?
I would probably put those pretzels in my X-Labs bag. That's the only thing. I mean, I can't really think of anything else I would have done different.
Okay.
Include salt in my fueling.
That makes sense. Now, for first-timers doing this race next year, what advice would you want to give them?
One would be, for logistics ways, you got to get one of those hotels. And the fact that these are like mom and pop retro motels, you got to be ready to, you're not going to get, like a Four Seasons or a Hilton or anything like that if you want to be close to the beach and to the pier and to the village. You're going to be in one of these mom and pop hotels. They can be anywhere from $140 to $170 a night. There are definitely some nicer ones. And then another thing is you have to do everything by phone. Like, these mom and pop, they have websites, but you can't go on Kayak and search for hotel rooms in Old Orchard Beach. You'll find some, but they're not going to be the good ones that are going to make your logistic planning so much easier. Plus you're probably going to save money too, because the ones that are in Kayak, you're going to pay a different amount. I mean, I know people that stayed in the same hotel that booked through Kayak, because this was the ones I was on, actually did have a spot where you could do that, and they paid a much different rate than when I just called and asked them how much your rooms were. There is minimums, I think, for the race, like 3 or 4 nights, but again,
that's not bad.
It's an awesome weekend. And then race wise, and again, the village is like, right. I mean, it's 600. I think it's like a 400-meter walk from transition to the swim start, and then the village is right there, near the pier. And the pier is this awesome, it's got restaurants and all kinds of fun stuff. Race-wise, logistics, just get ready for a fast. If it's going to be low tide, you're going to have a fast race. I mean, it's going to be a fast swim anyway. I think next year someone was already planning and looking at the wave charts, and they're already crying because high tide is at like 6:40 in the morning and the race starts at 6:20. So everyone was like, well, there goes my swim PRs. I guess it's going to be this year. Then, because they kind of know they're not going to get that, the same kind of times.
Right.
But the run course, the bike course, it's going to be fast if you like the rollers. It's not flat, but it's definitely not hills. There's no category climbs or anything crazy. And then the run, the advice I would say is on the out and back on the trail, it's on a rail trail, and your second loop, it definitely gets congested. That's one of the things I don't know how they would fix, but I mean, you're on a rail trail. So, like the middle path is no more wide, than a 4-wheeler or an ATV. So when you're going out, all the slow runners are on the nice path, and then the people coming back, all the slow runners were also on the nice path. So if you had to pass, you kind of had to go off the tracks and run in, the less nice gravel, I guess, hard packed gravel. Plus, when you were passing, you're speeding up and slowing down. You're not maintaining a steady pace. So that's one thing I would just make sure you're aware. And it's only on that one section of the course, so it's like 1.5 miles out and back. But that's something I would give as a tip. Your second loop is going to be congested with people.
Okay. Now, I didn't ask you last time, but what races are on your bucket list?
Bucket list, I would definitely say Tremblant is going on there now, just because from the environment I got from this race with the French Canadians. That and everybody I have heard coming out of Tremblant has nothing but nice things to say about it. I had quite a bit of good people I knew, good number of buddies that ran it or did it this year, both the full and half. The half sold out already. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'd say Tremblant. I would say ZLMC because when I was I was stationed in Germany. I spent a week in ZLMC on leave. So that was an unbelievable area. Frankfurt too, I guess, because again, Germany. That's where I was stationed. So I know that the area out there is beautiful. I think I don't know. I kind of want to do different rate. As much as I love this race and I would go back and do it again, just because of the family logistics, I would rather not do the same course again. So I think Placid 70.3 might be on the list next year, or if Rev 3 Quasi ends up going to be an Ironman branded race for 2019.
What do you mean?
So Old Orchard Beach, what used to be a Rev 3 race, and then they were actually running. They were worried about having to cancel it because of participation levels were not as high as they'd like to be. So last year was the first year they branded it as with Ironman, but it's still licensed under Rev 3. So last year, if you went to Rev 3 website and clicked to register for Old Orchard Beach, it would bring you to an Ironman website. So that everybody thought that was strange. But it worked out because it increased registrants by like 150% last year. And then when they opened it this year, it sold out in 2 months. So, they got 2,000 racers registered in a matter of 2 months just because everybody knew the course last year was going to be, it's a good venue. And just the Iron Brand name brings that those kinds of registration numbers. As much fun and great Rev 3 as, they can't just pull the numbers as Ironman can. So Quasi now is kind of in the same boat. That's the Beast of the East, they call it, because it's a incredibly challenging course. Again, like where I live in Connecticut, and I would go do this race because I could sleep in my own bed the night before. Connecticut's not flat and it's not mountains by any means, but so we have lots of hills. Your average 20-mile bike ride could easily have 1,500 feet of elevation. It could have 2,000 feet or 2,500 feet if you wanted it to. So Quasi, they call it the Beast of the East because the bike course has about 3,700 or 3,800 elevation, and then the run has another 1,000. So that's why it's a super challenging course. Now, I'm not sure if Ironman does take it over. From the rumors I've seen and read about. Actually, I read the meeting minutes of a select board meeting from the organizers from Quasi and Ironman asking this town if they could use their roads, if they would change the course, because it seems like, maybe Ironman is going away from a lot of the challenging courses.
I've noticed that. It seems like a trend among everybody wanting to do an easy Ironman. But if you think of it, 140.6 miles is not going to be easy if it's on flat, if it's on hills. It's not going to be easy no matter what. It's still going to be a long day, challenging mentally, challenging physically. And if it's a flat course with no wind, you're going to have to be on the pedals the whole 112 miles. If there's absolutely no wind, then it's even worse than if there is wind. I mean, there is no easy course for an Ironman. It's low elevation change or high elevation change, but it's still going to be hard.
Yeah. I think, that being said, those are all excellent points. Elevation is one of the things that you can control. I think the fact that Syracuse was discontinued, and that was a very challenging course. I know they'd had registration, numbers challenging, problems in the past. And then another thing is, with that mindset being of like people trying to find easier races, trying to put the people that, I know people that were saying Maine was a hilly course, and, if you could, it would be more than doubling the elevation. I think a lot of people would have, I don't think Ironman would get the registration numbers they'd like to if they kept everything the same. I would love it, because I would love a challenging course. But that, going back to say, with being a long day and stuff, elevation is one of the things you kind of could control. You can do this road that has a huge climb on it or not. That course alone, I think, has 2 different Cat 4s and has a Cat 4 and a Cat 3 climb on it. So, and in the East, that's kind of rare.
Right.
I would love it if they kept it the same. Just expect that your finishing times aren't going to be anywhere remotely close to any of the other races. And there's a reason why they called it the Beast of the East, is just because, and plus it's early June. So, water temperatures are probably going to be, they could very well easily could be in the low 60s, depending on how the New England winter is, that, how that spring goes. So, time will tell. I think that path for Rev 3, I don't know. I've never done a Rev 3, but from what I've heard, people say it's an awesome organization. I know they do some good stuff with Team Red, White, and Blue. I was going to look at Quasi regardless next June, because I had done Patriot 2 years in a row, and I'm looking to do something different. So whether it's run by Rev 3 or run by Ironman, I'm probably going to be there anyway.
Okay. Well, I only have one more question for you, or actually 2 rather. How can athletes follow you?
So I have Strava, just my first and last name, same thing with Facebook. And then my Instagram, which is just Try and then Ann Lund, or TRIAND and then LUN.
Okay.
And my Instagram definitely has more of the triathlon stuff.
Awesome. So you've already been on the show once, and I already know what your definition of a perfect race is. So to conclude this episode, if you could put together an ideal triathlon course for you, to include weather conditions, distance of each distance that you want to do, what would you want in a race to include weather?
Oh, man. So I actually, I already had something about this thought of, and then I listened to one of your shows, and it seems like they already have a race there, that the world's toughest, I guess, or something.
Vermont's
and I
toughest?
listened to it. Yes. Vermont's toughest in Lake Willoughby. I had been going there, so I grew up in northern Vermont, and I had known this place for a life, my entire life. It's this remarkable deep water lake where it looks like an entire mountain was cut right down the middle, and in the middle of this huge lake. long, narrow, like I think it's 2 miles maybe long, and it's deep. It's ice cold. It's very well regulated and protected. Like there's no motorboats on it. So, I mean, my race, like honestly, when I listened to that show, I went and looked online to see what that race was like, and it would be something like that. Because I'm still only doing the 70s. I don't plan on doing a full, but it would be a swim in Lake Willoughby. It's going to be a little bit colder. A bike ride through the Green Mountains, so you're gonna have some elevation, and then my run would definitely have I like the 2-loop course, so I would stick to that too. I did like in Maine how some of it was paved, some of it was on a rail trail, so that kind of broke up the monotony. So I think I would do something like that. You could I would base it right out of Lake Willoughby State Park. I think that's one of those hidden gems in the U.S. that are all over the place. But if you go online and just look for pictures about Lake Willoughby in Vermont, you would see, it's got this sheer rock cliff that goes right into the water. That's 800-900 feet. It looks like a fjord from Norway and stuff. So that's how my perfect race would be, in that lake, and then a bike course around the mountains that it's in. And then the run course would be like a 2-loop course that's around the lake.
Wow. Well, Andrew, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show, spending some time with me again, and I've enjoyed hearing about your experience at the Maine 70.3, and I just want to see what's next for you.
So I think I have one more local sprint that I'm going to be doing in September. And then after that, I'm doing a half marathon, the Cape Cod half marathon. That's always Halloween weekend. So that's another nice spot for the kids because they close down Main Street and everyone goes down Falmouth trick or treating, and then they have a race. So that's pretty nice. That's a good family weekend. And then it's the off season or postseason or however they call it, whatever they call it. And then, so I think next year I'm looking at, again, another June race, June half, hopefully, and then an August or September half. Try to keep the same schedule.
Wow. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I've enjoyed it. I look forward to following you in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. Have a good day, and we'll talk soon, okay?
You too. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.